Let's talk about the original K-drama meat stick.
Nope.
Captain Ring.
Nope. Beefcake, maybe beefcake, but not meat stick.
Beefcake. The original K-drama meat stick.
Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Lia, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists, and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hi there.
So tonight we're settling in, and Megan wants to talk, and she has promised that she's not going to be talking about her bowels.
But Lia is.
So this is related to you. This is related to you guys. I actually been wanting to tell you. So I don't know. This is going to start out boring, but I swear.
Did
purpose.
BTS not stay in a hotel room?
Can you edit out the boring part and just get to it?
Well, I'm just going to say, it's related to how, remember when we were talking about banks and we were talking about the difference between like credit unions and banks? Okay. Do you remember the three of us were talking about that?
Did we talk about this online or behind the scenes?
I think we were talking about it in Slack.
God, I was going to say, I hope this is not on an episode. I was talking about banks.
No, we were just talking about the difference between credit unions and banks and how often we actually have to like go into our banking institution.
Okay.
Never.
And I remember I said to you guys, I think the only time Neil and I ever went into our credit union was like to sign like a loan document or something. And so I was telling Neil about this story. And let me preface, I was driving. He was in the passenger seat. The kids were in the back. It had been a really long day. It was the day he ran like the half marathon. We had been at Philly. Like I was like delirious and tired. So I wasn't thinking correctly.
But you didn't run the half marathon. He did. And you,
shut up!
And you were delirious and tired.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just
you
clarifying.
You were at least driving for it.
You know what? I was providing emotional support to the whole family. And I carried a lot of bags that day, okay? It's like the pack mule. Anyway, so, and I said, do you remember that, Neil, how that was like the only time we went in was when we had to sign that loan document? And he goes, yeah. And then he said, well, just so you know, the business lingo is they call that a wet signature. And I was like, oh, okay, because you're like, I was like, okay, because you're like signing it with like your wet, because I can't believe I said this. I was like, because you're signing it with like your wet meat sticks.
Your wet meat sticks?
Meat sticks.
Why would you say that?
I meant like your fingers.
I think it's because it's actual ink that you're using.
Listen, I was, and I said it without laughing. I was like dead serious. I was like your wet meat sticks, like your fingers. And he was like,
no, the ink in the pen.
He just stared at me and he was like, what are you talking about? I was like, it's like a wet signature because you're in the flesh.
With your damp skin?
And with your...
And you call your fingers meat sticks?
I don't know.
Is that like a Pennsylvania thing?
He was like, I was like, your body is like moist.
Oh my God,
so it's
stop.
like a wet signature.
This like, I am in Neil's body right now, begging for this to stop.
He finally just goes, Megan, it's because the ink is wet.
Which is my first reaction.
I know. I still to this day do not know what I was thinking. I was convinced
what leaks out of your fingers?
I don't.
You're apparently
She's leaving prints, like damp prints, everywhere she goes. She can't touch a book. She can't touch a book in a store because.
Like, honestly, guys, it was like Neil is just like, what, like, how does your brain work? And I was like, I don't know.
The fact that you kept going after saying
I kept going. I never once thought it was because of wet ink. Because that would be the obvious choice, would be wet ink. But I was convinced it was because we were there in our wet flesh, wet bodies.
So I watched an Australian movie a long time ago, and they had a sex scene in it where the woman talked dirty. And in it, as she was like, going for it, she was like, part my meat curtains.
Nope.
Stop.
And
Stop. No.
That is
no.
how I think of with your little meat stick finger.
I can't believe that this is the lead-in
I know.
to this very special episode. Like, Leah, next time you ask before we start, does anybody have banter? You need to, she needs to be vetted before she speaks.
Well, she was like, I'm good. I've got something to say. I'm like, okay.
Fucking, she's been holding on to this for how long? That race was forever ago.
Wheezing.
This is worse than
This
the
is
hotel
worse.
BTS didn't stay in.
Is it worse than the boat?
Fucking no, the boat was awesome. The boat was awesome. This is like you're just like this drippy human now in my mind.
Oh my god.
Let me see your fingers.
They're just like melting wax.
It looks like are they like chubby little speckled beef jerky sticks.
I don't know. And Neil kept asking me, he's like, you have to tell them this story.
Not
So
tonight.
I did.
You didn't have to tell us tonight.
You had to tell us on air.
Right. Or on air. Like on our 2-year.
Amy, before we started, I was like, Megan, is this about your bowel? And she's like, no,
No,
not about my
it's so
bowel.
much better.
It's about my wet meat sticks.
This is what our 2-year anniversary is. It's going to be tainted by meat sticks now.
Oh my god.
And now I want one.
A meat stick?
You want a meat stick?
Yeah, I want a big... I remember I was in
Snap into a Slim Jim.
I was in Argentina one time with Nick, and we were at a place where it was
I was in Argentina one time, just the one time.
Yeah, just
because I've been in Argentina a million.
So I'm in Argentina, and they have these places called Carne Libre, which is just basically free meat. You just go and you pay, and they just give you meat as much as you can. They just come around with trays of meat, and you're like, I want this, this, and this, and they just hack off meat and give it.
They
to
have
you.
restaurants like that, not in Argentina, too.
Yeah. My point is that I was into it. And they gave me sausages. And I remember I picked up a sausage with my fork and I bit into it. And I was like, this is the best thing I've ever fucking put into my mouth. And Nick, without even blinking an eye, says, I've never been so unattracted to you. And I was like, you know what? There are men out there who would like to watch a lady eat a sausage.
This is hot.
I would like you both to leave this episode right now. Please escort yourselves out. I will
so
continue
sorry.
from here.
I know, and you were so excited. I mean, I'm excited about this episode too, but you were so excited, and I definitely ruined it. And
Amy is crawling through a tunnel of love right now, trying to get away.
I'm kind of delighted that I did this.
I don't even know how to
I want to
segue.
hear, Amy, what your segue is going to be.
I just said I don't even know how to segue. There's no meat stick segue.
I got one. Let's talk about the original K-drama meat stick.
Nope.
Captain Reed.
Nope. Beefcake, maybe beefcake, but not meat stick.
Beefcake. The original K-drama meat stick. Surrey never got any of Captain Reed's meat stick.
Oh
Not
my
to-
gosh.
to-
She never got to put a sausage in her mouth.
It was never the best thing she had put in her mouth.
Oh my gosh.
No.
I am so sorry. So sorry. Hyunbin and Sun Yijin. Oh, Binjin. We love you. All right.
Oh, and they have a baby now?
They do. And you both need to stop talking for a minute because I'm just going to go here.
Like the baby's ears.
So, January 30th, 2021, we dropped our first podcast episode titled Meet Your Unease. Now here we are 2 years later, countless dramas watched, a growing Patreon community, and over 100,000 downloads. Before we get into our official topic for today, any thoughts on the whole how it started, how it's going theme? Did you have any idea where this podcast might go when we began? And have we met or exceeded your expectations so far? Did you expect wet meat sticks 2 years down the line?
Well, my name is down first, so I'm going to say this. If you go back and you listen to our very first podcast, I don't speak for the first 10 minutes pretty much because I was paralyzed in fear because I did not know what to do. So you actually both talk for the first 10 minutes.
Seriously?
Yeah, if you go back and listen, I do not talk.
Really?
Yes. And if you remember, I was the original script writer because I was so paranoid about having nothing to say that I would just write these like incredibly long scripts, which is why all of our original podcasts are like 2 episodes.
Yes, like a double deep dive.
You did used to write the longest scripts known
because
to
I
man.
was very scared of having nothing to say. And then I remember us like really angsting, like, should we swear? Like, what happens? And I was really trying to censor myself and try to be like professional-ish, kind of.
But that wasn't being true to yourself.
Well, then Till the Nine Tail happened. I feel like once Till the Nine Tail happened, that's when I feel like, I mean, our personality does appear before that, I believe. I haven't gone back to listen. Like, you know, I know that, we were ourselves, but I think we were on good behavior. And I felt right around the time we hit Tail the Nine-Tailed is when I was just like, fuck it.
You cracked your can open. Like, that was the best. That was the best. I will never forget that.
In my mind, that's when I was like, you know what? I just have to talk how I talk in real life, and I can't be this like persona anymore.
Well, it's because I think we had this vision of, because when we first started, like the only dramas we had really watched when we started, all 3 of us were Goblin and CLOY, right? And so we had this idea of chasteness, not just, with sex, but also with language. And I think in the back of our minds, we're like, well, if drama watchers are there for that sort of, chasteness, then we should provide that too in the podcast because we don't want to offend anybody. But it's not true that every drama is as chaste as those dramas. And it's also not true that, just because you watch a certain kind of content, that is the only kind of content that you want in your life.
Yeah, and we're romance writers, so I think naturally, and we all are not chaste romance writers, right. So I think naturally that's what we want to talk about. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the first, 4 or 5 episodes, I'm talking out of the wrong end of the mic. Remember, we were like, Megan.
Oh, yes.
And we couldn't understand why my voice was so muffled. For 5 episodes. It's ludicrous. That's the thing. I can't listen to those early ones because it makes me cringe. Because I'm like, oh my God, I sound like I'm in the tunnel of love with Captain Ree. It's
or
bad.
In lunar water. You're just treading water in lunar water.
So clearly
you spun your mic around and it was all good.
Yeah. and then I was a true professional.
But I still kind of can't believe that we had the audacity to do it. Not that starting a podcast is having the audacity, but for me, if anyone knows how, every week it's a challenge for me to even sign in.
We never laugh at you. It's always with you. But when you texted, we both look at our phone. I'm like, oh my gosh, Megan, you dropped it in Slack just in case.
Yeah.
And she's like,
and I even tagged her. I was like, here's the link to get into our program tonight. And I even tagged both Amy because I was like, I know the emails have not been going out properly, and I tagged you both, and then she texts us 5 minutes after she's supposed to be here.
I was there on time, but the whole time I was frantically searching for it.
It was so funny. We were like, oh, Leah. We were laughing with you.
Yes. I'm just saying that for me it just felt very hard to do. And so I'm glad I didn't think about it because I think I would have talked myself out of it. And instead I was like, sure, absolutely. What could go wrong? And I was just in that kind of frame of mind, which, I get into every once in a while. And I'm glad I was in that frame of mind when we had the idea.
Well, I also think, and we've talked about this with our different personality styles and how, it's good that we are as different as we are because that's what kind of keeps this machine going. And you two are the ones who are super great at having these fantastic
I'm terrible
ideas.
at follow through.
And then I make them happen. I make you follow through. Let's do a podcast. Yeah, totally. That. How many people say we should totally do a podcast and they never do never do a podcast? And I'm like, okay, so I'm ordering a mic. I'm doing this. I'm not saying I'm the one who did it, but I think that's what's so great about us is the ideas come to fruition and then we follow through on them. And I think that's all of us working together.
Well, it's the same amount of people who are like, I'm going to write a book and then,
right.
Or I'm going to publish a book. And it's kind of the same thing. You just
here's what I will say to anyone sitting at home thinking, I wanted to do these things, but I don't know how, is I tried writing a book before I wrote my first book so many times and just fucking failed. Just failed over and over and over, and then gave up, and then I would try again. And in my heart, I just didn't really believe that I had it in me, honestly, for a long time. I can remember walking in the desert with Nick, and our son was like a newborn. No, maybe one. He was one. And he was like, do you think you're ever going to write anything again? And I was like 30. And I was like, I mean, I don't know. I would like to think so. And he was just like, well, you know, maybe when you're retired, you'll have time to think about writing. And I remember thinking, that does not sound like what I should be doing. Like, I just remember it just in a certain way. Not that, like, I think anyone who's reinventing themselves in retirement, like, fuck yeah. But like at the time I wasn't close to retirement. So I was also like, oh, am I just going to be like, I guess that's fine then. I'm just not going to like think about that for like 30 some more years. So I remember that's what lit. Like after that, I went back to like real life after like our Christmas vacation or whatever. And I immediately started writing my first book.
That's awesome.
So I was like, fuck you. I can do
whatever the motivation is. Like, and that's just it. Like, it's never too late to try something new. Like, I didn't start writing with intent to get published until I was in my mid-30s. And, you know, here I am now in my late 40s, just starting a podcast, and I love it. You know, like, I look forward to this every week. Is it a shit ton of work that we do? Yeah, absolutely. Like, added to all the other things that we do, but it is like absolute pure joy to do this work.
Well, we've made mistakes too. And I think that that's important. This is an old quote, so I'm not like at all attributing it to me, but I just kind of like have paid more attention to it lately. But it's that perfect is the enemy of good. And I keep like, I need to tell myself that a lot, because a lot of times I feel like I don't start something because I want it like absolutely perfect right when I start. And it's stupid, because that's just not going to happen. Like, and I think with the podcast too, like, we made mistakes. I talked out of the wrong end of my mic for 5 episodes. Like, it's okay.
You fail forward, you know, you progress. Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, now I think it's weird that I didn't used to do this, you know, like it's Wednesday night is pod night, like all the time.
Yeah.
Like it's blocked off in my calendar. It's never.
I shut my door, make my kids leave me alone.
Never going to not happen, you know?
We are as reliable as a Swiss watch.
All right. So for today's episode, we're just going to dive in, because we're not doing a deep dive, a 2-episode deep dive like we used to do. But we are talking about a drama, a rewatch of a drama, so spoilers can happen at any time, pretty much. I think it's safe to say that Crash Landing on You has quickly become a modern classic, and it's referred to as a gateway drama for many. So we're guessing that many of you have watched it. If you haven't, we highly recommend parking yourself in front of Netflix for this 16-episode gem. Then maybe give our 2-episode deep dive, our second and third Afternoona Delight episodes a listen, and then pop back for this 2-year later look back at the drama that brought Hallyu into our lives and changed pretty much everything. So consider this your fair warning. If you stick with us from here on out, we will be talking in detail about Crash Landing on You. Ready? Then, as always, let's get to it. So we've brought up countless times the fact that Crash Landing on You was our first drama. Leah started it first, I think on the recommendation of our friend Chanel, and both of you urged me to give it a try. Megan, you were just getting into K-pop and kept sending me videos to watch, which I loved. And so I mentioned, you know what, if you're really loving the music, that you might also love the dramas. And I told you that I thought you'd love CLOY. So do we all remember like kind of our thoughts and expectations going into the drama for the first time?
I truly didn't have high expectations, and that's mostly because I hadn't been into a TV series in like such a long time. Like, I just didn't even watch TV. I read books, or I watched like YouTube. I was just not into anything that was on TV. To me, TV at the time was like just so much CSI. Well, that was like the network TV. But even like Netflix, I just hadn't really been into any of the offerings other than like Stranger Things. That was it. So it didn't really have my reluctance, I guess, to like watch CLOY or any K-dramas. It had nothing to do with the fact that it was a K-drama. I just wasn't in love with TV at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. So for me, I had a real moment with Meteor Garden, which was a C-drama. And I had gotten obsessed with Meteor Garden and had so much fun watching it. And I was vaguely aware that there was like a K-drama that it was like an origin from, that there was like, you know, a Taiwanese drama there was an origin from, but I was kind of like, like I'm just all into this show. Like I'm not really interested in like exploring the origin stories. I just really enjoyed this, which is great because we're going to be talking about Dylan Wang pretty soon with an ongoing drama when Fairy Loves Devil. However, you know, I enjoyed Meteor Garden, and then I watched a couple of other C-dramas, and I was aware that there was this whole K-drama thing, and I was like, that just feels big and complicated. I'm happy just watching these couple shows. And then I just kind of like popped along with my happy little life, like watching, there was like a Swedish show I watched and some other things. And so, you know, while I was always aware of K-drama, I somehow just like didn't have it in me to pull the trigger for no real reason other than I think it was just waiting till I was like ready to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I knew nothing of K-dramas, and I knew no one who watched them. But for some reason, my first thought was that they were going to be, like, super cheesy, like American soap operas. And, like, don't get me wrong, I religiously watched Days of Our Lives in General Hospital for all of my teen and young adult years, and I loved them. But there is a difference between storylines that literally span decades, like of a show being on Monday through Friday for decades, and one that lasts 16 to 20 episodes. But I didn't know that was the case with K-dramas. Also, since I'm a multitasker, I was worried I wouldn't have the attention span to watch and read and do nothing else. All I knew was that, you know, Leah was watching and like you were like out of your mind for this drama, and I trusted your judgment and I dove in, even after thinking I'd never be able to get past the paragliding through a tornado. But I soldiered on, and I'm very, very happy that I did. I mean, for that to be like one of the first things that you see, and I'm like, okay, I have to buy into this because it's getting all this hype. Like, I've got to see what this is all about. And like, yeah, I mean, now that we're, you know, 2 years in and we just got, you know, we finished watching like Little Women, which is like the, you know, makjang to end all makjang. Like, you know, nothing I don't think can really surprise me as far as something being over the top in a K-drama or any sort of, you know, entertainment. But that having been my first, I was like, okay, so she paraglides through a tornado, survives, and lands in North Korea. All right, let the story begin. So obviously we were all hooked. What do you remember about your reactions from your first watch?
Okay, so what I remember very clearly was that I was having a unique experience of watching the type of romance that I wanted to both read and write. I felt like it was just commercial fiction hitting beats like it was its job, and that just gave me so much joy.
Yeah, I felt like it was some of the best storytelling I'd ever witnessed. Like, so, I mean, talk about having a hangover after you read a book or watch a drama or whatever. I could do nothing with myself after I finished this drama except for immediately go back to episode 1 and start again and watch it the whole way through.
Yeah, I was bereft when this was over. Like, I did not know what to do with my life. I do remember that feeling. So for me, it was definitely the writing. I just remember messaging them, and that was back when we were still messaging on like Facebook. And I just kept saying the writing, guys. And they're like, I know, we told you. But how all the subplots were woven together, along with this like actual believable romance that wasn't just like thrown in. I just love that the plot and the romance were married. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't have one without the other. And I just feel like that is not what Western TV does. Anyway, everything just felt written with intention. It felt like a romance book come to life. It felt like the romance books that I'd been reading, but on the screen. And that was what I wanted.
All right. So we came at this whole podcast idea from the perspective of watching K-drama through a writer's lens, and specifically often a romance writer's lens. So let's give credit where credit is due to Park Ji-eun, CLOY's main screenwriter, who also was the lead writer for several other popular dramas, including My Love from the Star and Legend of the Blue Sea. From a writing perspective, what does Park Ji-eun get right in this drama that has basically ruined you for much of Western media?
I mean, I feel like I'm like beating the drum for it, but it's the romance. I mean, that is what blew me away. Western TV can often get plotting right. Sometimes, like I would say for Stranger Things, although it's not over yet, so we'll see. But rarely does romance well, or does it that it's the actual plot. And like, I'm not saying it never happens, but I've just been let down so many times. And the romance in CLOY, like I said, was like right out of a romance novel. You know, I was thinking today that growing up, the movies that had romances were typically not romances. They were love stories. So they were like Nicholas Sparks movies or books, you know.
Where somebody has to die at the end, yeah.
Yeah, or they were like rom-coms written by Judd Apatow. Like, that is what... those were the rom-coms that, like, and the romance that I grew up with. All of those are written by men. And I think of, like, the TV shows that were really popular that had romances when I was kind of, like, coming of age. And they were all Twilight inspired. So it was, like, a lot of love triangles. And none of it was just what I wanted in a TV romance. There wasn't this, like, epic love story. Like, what the plot wasn't written with the romance in mind, in my opinion, for a large majority of these shows. And also the TV shows in Western media go on for, I mean, how many seasons? So you also have these couples who had been through so much that it just didn't mesh by the end. So yeah, I guess it's just like, I just wasn't given what I wanted and what I craved in Western media the entire time I grew up. Like, I'm hoping it changes soon and they can, like, write a decent romance, like, hire romance writers for God's sakes. But I did hear today, just real quick, Channing Tatum is writing a romance with Roxanne Gay.
Wow. He was a fantastic hero in The Lost City, I will just say. Like, if you guys have not seen the movie The Lost City with him and Sandra Bullock, and it's about a romance writer, like, on this adventure with her cover model, which is what he is. Like, he's the cover model that goes to signings with her. It's fantastic. But I am gonna, like, I'm sad, Megan, if you are too young to have grown up with any Nora Ephron movies, because we did have a great female romance writer in the 80s that gave us, like, When Harry Met Sally and Sleepless in Seattle. And those were my faves. But those are the movies that didn't exist then in the 90s, you know, in the later 90s and 2000s and stuff like that. And I think we're starting, like, romance is making a comeback in a different way. Like, we're not seeing them on the big screen, but we're not seeing a lot of things on the big screen. But I think that we are starting to get more in streaming, and I'm looking forward to that. Like, I will never say no to a romance. Like I said, The Lost City was pretty fun. But I will say, like, it is the romance that kind of hit me over the head in Crash Landing on You. And I think what sets this apart from not just a lot of Western media, but even some other dramas, is not the epic romance moments, and there are plenty, but also the smaller ones sprinkled throughout. Like this, on my second watch, I had a digital sticky note open, and I'm like, I'm just going to jot down all of the romantic moments that hit me. And I was, like, furiously taking notes as I watched and kept jotting down, like, one thing after another in every single episode. So it was like each little episode was its own sort of romance story, you know, within the broader story. Like, from Captain Rhys saving her from detection in the first episode, to the candle in the marketplace, to him filling her fridge while she's in the hospital. Like, all of this combined with, like, the epic life or death romantic moments just got me. Like, that is where Park Ji-eun understood the assignment.
You're right. It's like the little moments, because there were a lot of little romantic moments. And I would also say another thing she nails is not just the romance, but the relationships. I mean, the amazing relationships that she created among the different various characters, and how those relationships also drove the plot forward. Oh my God. Like, I'm getting, like, verklempt again.
I know.
I just...
The friendships
just think of, like, when Captain Reed bent to put sneakers on one of the ducklings. Just moments like that where I'm like, it's just the heart of this show was right there for us to see.
So... Okay, so I don't want to, like, I feel like an asshole.
No, go ahead.
You can be contrary.
You can be contrary.
I think it's great. And this is where I want to put out a caveat that says that if I have critique, that doesn't mean I don't like something. Because I feel like after we did My Mister, there were all these people like, I wish you guys had liked it. And I was like, what the fuck? I liked it. I just didn't like, it wasn't my favorite drama I've ever seen, but I liked it. And look, I'm going to say at this point, and we're going to talk about this more later, so I don't want to belabor it. That's kind of where I'm at with CLOY now, having done the rewatch, is I'm curious. I think that I came to it like a person wandering around in the desert, basically, who was like looking for certain content and just not getting it. Like Amy and I had been pretty into CW at one point, and CW wasn't perfect either, but like Heart of Dixie and some of these dramas we were like into, because we're like, oh my God, just give me something that's like commercial and tropey and seems to like respect fucking romance tropes. And just like commercial tropes, because I think that you can enjoy content like that, but we just weren't getting it. And this is where I want to talk about things without being a hater, but I don't have like a great way to do it. So I appreciate and respect folks who, when like Christmas time comes around, they're like, yes, cannot wait for the Hallmark movies to start. And they just get so much enjoyment out of watching them. And those are very trope heavy, but they've just never hit the spot for me. And that's okay. They're just not my thing.
Me either. And that's okay too.
And I feel like it's like you either get that, like you either get that, or you can get like Nicholas Sparks with like someone dying with like a love story along the way. So like if you're looking for good romance, like I just kind of felt like I was left out in the cold. There was like, like Judd Apatow, like that kind of stuff, but there wasn't what I was looking for. So when I found Crash Landing on You, it was like, holy shit, this is what I've been wanting. And so I'm always going to love it for that. And I still think it's very good. I just don't think I love it as much now, having seen a whole bunch of dramas. I don't love it as much as I did the first time I watched it, because I've seen things that have like moved me more. However, I'm never going to not have a great spot for it in my heart, because I think it's a good story. I think it's a lot of fun. And I think it's romantic and sweet and swoony. And it just let me realize that there was many other things possible if I just got over myself and kind of just kept looking in other places for the content I wanted. And we can talk about later maybe why I haven't fallen out of love for it. It's just like, as you guys were watching, you're like, Amy, you were like, it's still in like my very top. And I'm like, it's not for me.
It is. Not. Well, I mean, that's my next question. My next question is quibbles. So we can quibble. And I honestly, like, when I first watched this, it could do no wrong because I was so invested in the romance that I was not looking at anything else. So yeah, you can watch it through, I mean, we're definitely watching it through different eyes because we have so many other dramas under our belt, and you can't help but compare with everything else that you've seen. And we've talked a lot lately about, the portrayal of mental health issues in dramas. And I think it's a lot more visible to us now. We weren't looking for it before, like kind of, Leah, what we were talking about before we started recording, like what am I not seeing, kind of thing. And I definitely didn't see this the first time around. And the fact that the first, when you go back in time and you see all the times that they're, fated mates, that their paths have crossed, that Suri and Captain Ree's paths have crossed throughout the years. The first time that it did is when she goes to Switzerland to ask to be euthanized at, an assisted suicide center. And I am not downplaying depression or any mental health issues at all, but I applaud the episode for having this suicide center say, no, we're not going, we don't find a plausible reason to help you with this. But here's some pamphlets and some help you can get. And I appreciated that.
Here's some pamphlets.
Yeah, I know. But like, I still
read yourself out of your depression.
I still was like, oh my gosh, like it didn't like slip past me, but it just wasn't an issue for me the first time around. Somebody being so depressed and I mean, like, she had some issues, and I totally respect, what made Suri depressed. Like, her depression was not gratuitous. She was dealing with some big time abandonment issues from the mother who raised her, because she was, her father's illegitimate daughter. And, I get that she had a lot going on. But the fact that the first time that we meet is, right before she's about to jump off of the panoramic bridge, because the suicide center wouldn't help her. And then that's like never really addressed again, that she's dealing with some really heavy mental health issues. That was my teeny tiny quibble.
That's a pretty big
It is. It's a big quibble, but I'm saying like it has nothing to do with the plot. It has nothing to do with the romance. It is just like a scene that's thrown in there that I think should have been dealt with better.
I mean, it's not necessary.
No.
Like, she could have just gone to Switzerland. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we didn't need Suri to have this emotional wound where she was, she
could have gone to
depressed.
Switzerland with that emotional wound and not wanted to kill herself too.
Yeah. Like, I guess
moment on the bridge where she was like kind of wavering all of a sudden, but the idea of going for assisted suicide, I think that is a part of the plot, and I do think that was pretty effed up. And I think at the beginning I was just so overwhelmed with like everything else,
right? Because
I was so much like, oh my gosh, I'm like really taken with this, that all just kind of washed past me.
Same. The first time I watched it, I didn't even know that was what was happening. Like, I fully did not comprehend that was actually what was happening. I was like, oh, she's gonna fall off the bridge. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I seriously just like, because again, I was like so. Yeah.
Okay, meat sticks.
I know.
Okay,
seriously, you are wet meat sticks for the rest of your life.
I was so taken, by it that I just didn't. I think I understood that she was like something was happening, but I don't think I fully understood the assisted suicide place and all that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I would say I still would have liked a cuddle, just a cuddle
in a bed.
Like, I would have. I don't need to see. I do not need to see a Captain Ree neck vein a la Lee Dong-wook. I did not need that. I truly didn't need sex, but I could have gone for some intimacy, some skinship, some physical, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, their kissing only happened at high emotional moments when it was like literally like a life or death kind of situation.
Right. Give me just a cuddle. You know, I guess that I would have liked that, but it's okay. Like, it's okay that it didn't happen, but I still would have. I think now that I've watched more dramas, and I like, especially when I watched like Fight for My Way, and there was just some really lovely like flirting in that, where during like the fun and games beat of the romance, there was just some really like sweet, sexy flirting, and I'm like, I could have gone for that, you know. But even a hug. Couple more hugs, but it is what it is. It's fine.
Look, I don't want to get into too many quibbles. I think that for me, the humor felt broader than I remembered.
What do you mean broader?
She thinks it's slapstick like Min Dong now.
It's more slapstick than I remembered. And so as I was watching it, I'm like, damn, this is really slapsticky.
Okay. Yeah, I would say. Yeah.
And I just hadn't like put that together the first time, whereas this time it like kept taking me out of the like I was like, oh, this is reminding me not of Min Dong, but like, you know, on that specter. Yeah. There was just times where it felt silly for silly's sake, and I just didn't need it.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into another thing later, but I thought that there were just a lot of plot threads that were loose. Like the fact she was raised by her stepmother. I remember even watching it the first time being like...
Not sure, right.
Like, we don't really ever explain like what went down in her family. And that doesn't make sense. And like her relationship with her dad, where like it seems non-existent, yet he's going to leave it all to her. Like, why isn't that developed? Like, I felt like the mom kind of goes through an arc, and like the rest of them felt like very caricature-ish.
Yes, absolutely.
And then there was like a little bit of nuance towards the end, but it kind of felt like there just seemed to be like, it could have been more interesting, I guess. And then we're going to talk about the villain too, but like the whole villain.
Oh my God.
The whole villain plot.
Yes.
I was like, okay, this really is like straining.
I know, it's that we do talk about that later. Like,
I did like for all of that. I'm not saying that I can't have like any humor. Like the ducklings were silly, and I didn't mind it. I didn't mind like the uncle who was like the high up guard, and like, you know, the sister and Sodan. Like, and I loved the B romance still. So I mean, there was plenty that I enjoyed. It's just as I was watching it, I was like, oh, there's like elements here that now are like, when I see them, they're like the things that I'm always like, oh, I didn't like that as much. And I'm like, oh, there's a lot of those that occurred in this drama that I didn't know the first time.
Well, what's interesting too is when we all first watched CLOY, we weren't like watching it to critique it. We were just watching it. Like, you know, we didn't have a podcast. We didn't know the podcast wasn't even an embryo or a zygote. I mean, we had no intention. So I do think that's interesting now, because how I watch dramas now, a lot of times I'm constantly thinking, oh, I need to talk about this when we podcast. Right. And I do kind of internalize things a little more. Whereas, yeah, a second watching of CLOY, now that we have a podcast, we're like, wait a minute. If this was any other drama, we would have brought this up. Like, we would have been like, hey.
And I will just say that there's other romances now that have touched me more, that I've thought about more. I think that Crash Landing on You is special on its own. I just want to be very clear so nobody comes at me like, ah! Like, it is special on its own. And I do think that, to me, it's more special because of, like, what it means to me in terms of, like, being my first K-drama.
Yeah.
But when I think of other, you know, at the end, when we talked about, like, what our top 5 were, I, like, went to my top 10, and then in my mind, I went to my top 15, and it was not in any of those. But that doesn't mean I don't like it. I like it a lot.
But you like a lot of other ones even more. That's fair. That's fair.
That is. Well, you know what we don't quibble about is our K-pop Rock of the Week. And so that's what we're going to get to now. So who's up? I don't even know. Which one of you has given us a K-pop rec?
Okay, so I kind of want to do this in partnership with Megan, because I think we were both excited about this, but we came at it from like different sides of the coin, which is the song that released on January 13th, which is called Vibe. And it is a collab between Big Bang member Taeyong and BTS's Park Jimin. So this is Taeyong's first release in like 5 years or something. I mean, it's been a minute.
Yeah. His solo, I mean, he has had solo songs before outside of Big Bang, but it's been a long time. And then Big Bang just had that one song, Still Life, recently, after they were all out of the military, but that's kind of it.
It's a fun song. I like the aesthetics of it. I think that they both look great together dancing. I know that Jimin has been a giant Big Bang fan forever. And I mean, like, who hasn't kind of that's like come up through the ranks in K-pop, right? Like, these are like the second generation OGs. And I think everybody performing from them on it like owes them a big debt.
Yeah, I mean, I like, not to be, but I like the vibe of the song. Like, I just think it's fun. I've always loved how Taeyong moves. I love how he dances, and so it feels really good to see him back.
Yeah, so both enjoying it. It's fun to see collabs, and it's fun to see, I think, you know, being ARMY too, I think it's just fun to see members getting to do like dream collabs with heroes of theirs, which it's, you know, I mean, how exciting is it to get to have that opportunity? So yeah, so our recommendation this week is Vibe.
If you enjoy our podcast, you have our patrons to thank, at least in part. Afternoona Delight Patreon allows us to keep creating content for y'all to enjoy. Thank you so much to everyone who is supporting us there. And not to brag, but our Patreon community is pretty awesome, and you can join at a tier that feels good to you. Gain access to fun perks like K-drama posts, monthly Patreon-only bonus podcasts, and even a live K-drama support group on Zoom. Because we know firsthand what it's like to have no one to talk to about those crazy plot twists, amazing characters, and all those feelings. And look, no one should have to walk that walk alone. So learn more by visiting afternoonadelight.com. That's www.afternoonadelight.com. And hey, while you're on the website, you can check out Afternoona Delight podcast merch, find links to book recommendations, bop along to our K-pop recs, glow up your skin with K-merch recs, find all of our social media, and a link to our email so you can send us recommendations or feedback. And hey, while you're at it, why don't you pop over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review? It really helps with our discoverability. 감사합니다.
So what kinds of things do you both like to do when you drive?
Pay attention to the road? Is this a trick question?
All right, how about when you fold laundry?
Why am I folding laundry in this scenario?
Read, friends. I was trying to get you to say read.
You could just ask us if we like to read when we drive, or... Wait, how are you reading when you're driving?
With Audible. You know, our sponsor, who is the leading creator and provider of premium audio storytelling, enriching the lives of millions of listeners every day. I listen to audiobooks on my commute to work, in the car.
Oh yeah, I totally do that. I love my Audible subscription.
Then why'd you leave me hanging with the whole driving thing? Forget it. It's not important. What is important is that now our listeners can get a 30-day free trial of Audible Premium Plus from Afternoona Delight. Do you know what they get with that free trial?
Actually, I do. They get 1 audiobook credit, 2 if they are Prime members, which is good for any premium selection, and they get to keep that audiobook.
They also get the whole Audible Plus catalog of podcasts, like Afternoona Delight, audiobooks, guided wellness, and Audible originals.
And with the Plus catalog, you can listen all you want, no credits needed.
And Audible sends you a reminder email before your trial ends.
Sounds like a great way to spend 30 days to me, especially if you're heading outside for a walk, have a long commute to work, or just want to hear one of many talented narrators really bring your book to life. All you have to do is go to www.audibletrial.com/afternoona to sign up, and you're ready to download your first listen. Enjoy!
One thing we've discussed in previous episodes is T. Taylor's book, Seven Figure Fiction, and the idea of universal fantasy. To break it down into its simplest terms, a trope is a commonly used storytelling device, like the popular romance tropes of enemies to lovers, like Mad for Each Other or Her Private Life, best friends to lovers, like Fight for My Way or Hospital Playlist, or office romances, like Business Proposal or What's Wrong with Secretary Kim. The universal fantasy aspect is what the writer uses to reel you in and lap up those tropes again and again. It's the rich butter added to the trope recipe, like found family, a makeover, a wounded character, both emotional or physical, and the bully who loves me. Taylor talks about sprinkling this UF butter throughout your writing. Not every universal fantasy is going to hook every reader or viewer, so the more you sprinkle, the more people you'll hopefully hook with your story. Crash Landing on You is full of both tropes and universal fantasy butter. What's both a trope and a UF where CLOY succeeds in still hooking you even after 2 years?
So yeah, I can jump in. I would say it is Fated Mates because this drama loves its coincidences, ... or are they? Because we see that the two leads have been, crossing paths for some time and influencing each other's lives. And so I think that trope is done well here. And yeah, when we get to that like universal fantasy butter, for me, I'm just going to say, I'm going to slather it on kind of this trope, because who doesn't want to think that out there is like their perfect soulmate that is just waiting to
keep them from jumping off a bridge.
No, I'm actually going towards is going to apparently pee their pants crawling under a mountain range for 24 hours.
I mean, he had a wet signature by the time he got through that tunnel.
Or he just like released, or you know what, he just doesn't have a bladder because he's Captain Ree. I don't know. I'm just saying that like the amount of right place at the right time saving he does, plus that like Fated Mates kind of determination of, look, I was ruined for this kind of back in my 7th grade, which was like the early 90s when Last of the Mohicans came out, and Daniel Day-Lewis like grabs onto Madeline Stowe's character at the waterfall, and they're like in the cave behind the waterfall, and he's like, no matter what you do, stay alive, I will find you. And then he like flings himself off the waterfall. That is like the intensity I feel like that we get at like the best parts of this drama.
I'm 100% going to agree with you there. Like, I was like writhing when you start going back in time and seeing all the times, like, the places that their paths to cross and stuff like that. And like the whole piano part of it, like I was lapping that butter up. Like I could not get enough of it. And it's something that we see more often in fantasy, which I love. And that's one reason why I love fantasy romance. And I think that's part of the reason why Crash Landing on You hit me like it did, was because I got to see this happen in a contemporary romance, and I bought all of it.
It feels like a fantasy romance set contemporary. It truly does. It has the intensity of a fantasy romance, but in a contemporary world. I mean, and part of that, I think, and this is my answer, is I love the fish out of water trope. It's one of my favorites, and often that's what you get in a fantasy romance or like a sci-fi romance, because they're in another world or another dimension or whatever. And this drama does it twice, because first Suri's a fish out of water in North Korea, and then Captain Ree's a fish out of water in South Korea, and all his little ducklings. And it's just like, oh, I love it so much. And then, I mean, the butter is Captain Ree. Like, everything about Captain Ree is butter. He's so buttery, I want to, like, dunk some lobster in him. He is emotionally... I want to dip my meat sticks in him. He is emotionally wounded from the death of his brother, but yet once he allows himself to feel, he'll do anything for Suri. And, I just need to say, Amy and I talked about this a little bit in our, like, casual K-drama chat, but the, like, female gaze in this is just overwhelming. I mean, it's like immediate. He's even like the very first episode where she, is in his like bungalow thing, and he's making her food from scratch, like making the fucking noodles. And it's like this montage of him cooking. But it's done in a way, just everything about it feels like a woman wrote and directed this. Like, I don't know what else to say. And just like those small touches are throughout the entire drama. Just these, like, again, the like way he shows his feelings and the romance that's not through physical intimacy is incredible. And to me, that's like, that's the butter of
That's what I mean.
this
Like, every single episode had like this sweet romantic moment in it. Like, usually towards the end, like, you know, the holding up the candle or whatever. Like, just, all the butter. So CLOY's pretty meta when it comes to the whole K-drama formula, which we didn't really realize then. We have the character of Kim Joo-muk, one of Captain Ri's ducklings, played to perfection by Yoo Soo-bin. He loves South Korean dramas, especially the one starring Choi Ji-woo, who gets to make a wonderful cameo as herself. Joo-muk often comments on what's happening in CLOY and how it's very similar to something he's seen in a drama. So what's one of your favorite of these sort of meta moments that we might have missed on our first watch?
Well, the first thing I don't know if this is, it's meta, is I had no idea the first watch what was going on with the green sweatshirt guy in episode 10.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
So
good point.
that is
Kim
Soo-hyun, who, you know, is our pillow-lipped beau from many a romance. And so he makes a brief appearance in Crash Landing as his character, Won-ryu Hwan, who comes from the film Secretly Greatly.
And we would love to see if we could find it anywhere.
Yeah, which we still have not been able to locate, where apparently he is a North Korean spy who has been deployed to South Korea. So they basically take like this well-known South Korean movie and take the lead from that, who's a spy, put him in South Korea undercover and have him run into the ducklings as they're kind of like going around and have an exchange about it. And so, I mean, at the time, it's just this goofy dude in a green sweatshirt who's like, I'm like, I don't know what happened, but like, okay, whatevs. And then like later realized like kind of where they were going with all of that.
So I actually did not notice this, but I read it. That when Captain Ri is like, you know, all in on his video games, when Suri has to cut him off. But apparently, as he's playing the video games, some of the theme music from Memories of the
Oh yeah, I know that too.
So I didn't know. I don't, because I haven't seen that drama. But
That's awesome.
I love that. That's like,
that is true, and that is funny. And I didn't even think about this time when I've seen the movies. I've seen Memories too.
That's awesome. All the call outs. Yeah, so there's like a very specific part when the ducklings are getting questioned individually by the NIS agent when they are apprehended in South Korea. And Joo-muk keeps asking if Captain Ri is there because they're all getting questioned individually, right? Like by themselves. So he keeps asking, is Captain Ri here? Is Captain Ri here? And is he all right? Because this is usually the part in a South Korean drama where you find out the main character has been seriously hurt or killed. And this is, of course, when Sung-jun and Suri are both potentially fatally wounded. So I thought that was really cute. Because it takes this like really heavy stuff that is going on and adds some levity to it.
So was there anything in your rewatch that surprised you, or was there something you forgot that was fun to relive 2 years later?
So for me, one thing was when Suri was at the hospital. She has a run-in with a North Korean younger girl who knows everything about BTS.
Oh,
I knew nothing about BTS. And so that whole part was lost on me where she, like, you know, she's a Jungkook bias. And it was like this whole cute thing where I was like, I don't even really know what they're talking about. And now I really, really do. That was fun to be like, oh, here I am 2 years later. Like, that was not where I was
full
expecting
army
to go with my life. And then look, we can get into this, but the trucks of death were ridiculous.
So they look like they're alive. Like it's like
they're like Transformers for sure.
Ludicrous.
Like it's Michael Bay directed that portion of the drama.
You just can't believe that. I mean,
I know.
And like when they would come out and just like
they would like growl. It was.
And like they just like hit the one woman on the road. Like, yes! I mean, we were just killing everyone.
Oh my God.
We're killing everybody out here.
They looked like they were an episode, like a really bad villain from like Cars.
Yeah. 100%. Well, I was just going to say the tornado will never, I'll never not be over the tornado. It was funny because I got my mom to start watching CLOY. I told her basically, like, you have to. As my mother, like, I'm just asking you to do this one thing for me, is watch CLOY. So far she's watched episode 1, and she did text me, and she's like, I really liked it. And she's like, that tornado was pretty hokey. And I was like, you think? And my mom, by the way, has watched soaps. Like, she actually she's actually back watching Days of Our Lives is like, you know, you can take like a decade off.
You can.
And still, you know what I mean? So she's back to like watching Days of Our Lives. And so nothing is gonna like shock her. Like, I knew that nothing in CLOY was gonna surprise her, but it was just funny. And you know, the tornado is still, it's just like sunny.
I know, it's
like
so funny.
Gorgeous day. And then this just like tornado comes, and it's like a truck flies by her. I mean, it's so stupid.
Ow.
It was like the Wizard of Oz. It was like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz.
You know? I hated it so much. I was laughing the whole time. And I don't remember what I think when I first started watching, I was like, what did they make me watch? But the second time I was just like laughing.
Right.
As much as I was like, oh, this romance is, or like the drama's more campy than like I wish, I am still like actually a big fan of the tornado. And the fact that they were like, we're going to just commit to this tornado and put everything in that tornado. Like, it is going to be the Wizard of Oz.
Like, the plot hinges on
the tornado.
She has to get to North Korea somehow.
Right. And not be detectable. Look, there's some stuff in here that's supposed to be serious that definitely made me laugh. And like, yes, the tornado will always make me laugh. The trucks of death are hilarious. And I'm going to take it a step further to our villain. Like, even though I think that Chol Gong is a great villain in how he, you know, plays the baddie, I was surprised to realize that he's also one of the dumbest villains. Like, how does he never put 2 and 2 together that Ri Jong-hyuk and Ri Moo-hyuk, the guy he murdered, were brothers? How does he also have no clue that their father is the director of the military bureau? Also,
no clue.
Also, why does he give villain speeches telling Captain Ri exactly what he's going to do so that Ri can track him down and foil his plans? Like, when Chol Gong gets to North Korea, he calls him. He's like, look, I escaped prison. I'm in South Korea. When he gets to South Korea, I escaped prison. I'm in South Korea. I'm going to kill your woman. There's nothing you can do. And Ri Jong-hyuk is like, really?
Captain Ri's like, bet.
Challenge accepted.
I don't even have to pee for 20 hours.
Let me go grab my catheter, and I'll be right there. But like,
yeah, I mean, and like the
you
fact
won't
that
get your wet meat sticks anywhere near my woman.
And the fact that the baddie has to go down to South Korea, like, no, you don't, buddy. Just let it go. You know,
like, you escaped prison. Go live your fucking best life.
Yeah.
I don't even get it. He escapes prison. He's like, now I must go kill Suri just to fucking piss off Captain Reed, just because. I mean,
for putting me in prison.
And the whole nexus of it was that Ri Moo-hyuk had discovered that he had a side hustle
with the grave robbers,
up grave digging merchandise.
Yeah.
So he got the truck of death. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, and another thing that I kind of had forgot about was, like, the women of the North Korean village. I fell in love with them all over again. Well, first not, because they're, like, her nemesis. But then when she becomes friends with them and how she sends them skincare.
I know.
That scene.
Okay. For a long time, I'm mad at myself that I even put this in here because I can't narrow it down. But for a long time, this drama sat in all of our top 3. Then as we got more dramas under our belt, we might have moved it to the top 5. So here's the big question. Is it still a top drama for you? Whether it's like top 5, top 10, whatever. Would you still consider it a top drama? And while we're at it, whether CLOY lands a coveted spot, what are your top 5 dramas? None of you behaved and did just 5, so I didn't either, so I feel okay.
Well, I did. Oh,
no, I behaved.
Yeah,
I did just 5.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, no. Then you list like 5 others.
Yeah.
Leah.
Then you're like, and now here's my top 10.
I'm not going to go all night.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. This is mean. I actually like wrote them. I had to like write them down.
I did too. I was writing them down. I was like, well, no, what about this? Well, no, what about this?
Yeah, these are not in order.
Yeah,
although
not in order.
I will say I don't think CLOY's in my top 3. I think it's in my top 5. It is in my top 5. Okay. So my top 5 obviously still includes CLOY. It just does. And for me, the magic was still there. And maybe it was nostalgia. I don't know. I don't care. I'm not going to question it.
Yeah, you don't
it just
need to.
is still. So joining CLOY in my top 5 are Healer, I Am Not a Robot, Flower of Evil, and Mr. Sunshine. All of Us Are Dead is like a very, very close 6th spot. Okay? That was hard. Basically, it was between like Mr. Sunshine and All of Us Are Dead. That was tough. But so anyway. And then I'm throwing in Kin Porsche as my favorite non-Korean drama, although I'm watching Love Between Fairy and Devil right now. So Kin Porsche is in a very threatened position because Love Between Fairy and Devil it has consumed me. Yeah. So there it is. That is my top 5. Things may change. But that's it. And I mean, because romance is always going to grab me.
Yeah.
So look, it's not for me. Like I said, I loved it the first time and it changed my life, literally. And this time I appreciated it and I still loved it. But look, it's not top 5 or top 10. And I know because I just kept writing them out to see. So if I had to go with K-drama only, no Thai or C-drama, I mean, I am going to say Fairy and Devil is like high, like I love it, but we're not talking about K-drama right now. And for me, honestly, Kin Porsche has been unseated by Love in the Air because I am obsessed with Love in the Air for a Thai drama. But if we're talking K-drama, my top 5, not in order, but just my top 5 are right now today, Mr. Sunshine, Missing, Reply 1988, Coffee Prince, and All of Us Are Dead. And rounding out my top 10, I put in Strangers from Hell just because I think it was so fucking well done. Goblin, Hospital Playlist 1 and 2, and Healer. And so while I loved CLOY, I do feel like I've just loved other romances more. Like I Am Not a Robot, Happiness, It's Okay Not to Be Okay, and When the Camellia Blooms are probably all romances that I've loved more. But I do think that this is always going to be my gateway K-drama rec.
Okay, so I feel not bad at all by having a top 8, basically, because nobody behaved, and so I'm fine with that.
Nobody behaved.
And I'm fine with that, and I'm also thrilled that we have such different lists. Like we have some crossover, but I love that we have such different lists. So my top, tippy top, always Goblin, Crash Landing on You, The King Eternal Monarch, Healer, Flower of Evil, Itaewon Class, Coffee Prince, I Am Not a Robot. And the way that like for me, and there's like I love all the a lot of the ones that you're mentioning too, like Hospital Playlist and Happiness and All of Us Are Dead, like absolute fantastic dramas. I'm basing it mostly on what are some dramas that I still miss and I know I'm gonna watch again someday. And so far I think those are the ones for me.
I like our lists.
Yeah.
I like that they're different. Because so I think sometimes Amy and I tend to gravitate a little bit more of similar ones, but yours and mine are different.
Do we have?
Lee, I'm kind of shocked you didn't mention Itaewon.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely in there for sure. So
that's why it's so hard.
Did any of us have anything that was the same in our top 5?
CLOY.
No, I don't.
No, she doesn't have CLOY.
Oh, you mean all 3 of us?
Like,
oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant
any of us have.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, none of us have one drama that we
Not
say
all
the
of
3 of us have in our top 5.
Oh, that's cool. I think
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it was hard. I wrote it down and I was like, I feel like it hasn't changed for a while, my top. Because Healer won't be unseated. Like, just...
Healer's in my top.
I feel like my top 3 have stayed really consistent, which is, in no particular order, Mr. Sunshine, Me Sang, and Reply 1988. I feel like those are always my top 3.
Yeah. I mean, Healer and I'm Not a Robot are always up there with CLOY.
Megan, you and I do overlap. We do overlap with CLOY and Healer. Those are both in our top 5s.
You and me.
Yeah. But not all 3. Yeah, all 3 of us don't overlap.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, too, because sometimes I look at a drama, I'm like, okay, well, I love this drama's in my top because of the romance, but then this drama is in my top because of...
Right, there's different tops that you can have. Like, what are your top 5 romance? What are your top 5, like, action? What are your top 5 dramas that you would watch again and again? We can
like, I had to think, like, It's Okay Not to Be Okay was...
amazing.
Incredible.
But I wouldn't want to watch it again.
But I would never want to watch it again. And so...
It's painful.
I just want pictures... of her wardrobe. Yeah. That's it. But I will never watch it again. And for it to be in my top 5, I really have to want to be able to watch it.
And that's
again.
how I
like,
feel
I
too.
think I feel like I just can't put it in my top.
And me saying I feel like I should do a pod on because I don't honestly know if it would get either of you.
I know.
But I feel like, look, it's just never loosened its grip on me. There's no romance in it, which is a surprise. I actually have 2 in my top 10 that aren't romances. And I think but that doesn't mean that it's just Strangers from Hell I've never forgotten it. It was just like so.
Oh, never.
And then me saying, I think just like got under my skin and like a really I'm a Siwon fan forever because of it. I love it so much. It really like touched my heart in such a big way that like I've never gotten over how much it touched my heart watching it.
I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, I will say I'm surprised because I don't have an An Bo-hyun drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, like none of us
I think
about like her private life, like any of the
like I love him so much, but his dramas are just never like my top faves because I did love My Name.
I have an An Bo-hyun because I said Itaewon, so I took him.
Like I love My Name, but I will never watch My Name again.
Right.
But
I didn't put Moon Lovers in here, and I'm going to do Moon Lovers soon, and I would watch Moon Lovers like once a year. I still think it's a hot mess, but I don't care because like as much as I'm like CLOY, like I'm not saying but like I kind of was like I like it, but whatever. Like
right.
Moon Lovers is such a bigger mess, and I don't care.
The heart wants what the
It
heart
just
wants,
does.
and that's fine.
But look, Captain Ree always. I mean, like, look, I think it's just that it is interesting to see as you watch more things, like what enters your heart. Like we have big, big, big hearts that can be full of love for so many things, which is my final thought. Because your question, what's your final thought? That's my thought.
I like that final thought.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say I'm so excited about like what's coming up this year. I'm so excited. Like Netflix recently like announced their like whole slate of like K-dramas.
Oh my gosh. I like one of my favorite things on my Instagram feed right now is the many, many posts from the Swoon Netflix.
Same.
Like Korea. Like I can't. It's so good.
I keep rewatching that. I mean, I look An Bo-hyun's in a romance drama. They show him. I mean, come on. Buddy.
I mean, I still have never even really gotten into the effect he has left on me from Yumi Cells, which he is devastated my soul in Yumi Cells. And I don't even think you watched Yumi Cells 2, Megan, where he like comes for you like a hatchet, and it's just like, oh my heart.
God, I love it. I don't know if I can do it to myself.
Love it so much.
Well, I guess any other final thoughts?
Happy 2-year anniversary to you two, to us three, to all of our listeners. Like for those of you who've been with us from the beginning, for those of you who are just joining us now, like we're so thrilled that you're here. We could not keep doing this if it wasn't for you listening to us. And I'm still kind of floored that like we started this with zero intention. We were talking about that earlier. We started this with zero intention just so that we could talk about this stuff face to face. And it's turned into quite a thing that I love.
I'm going to go back and listen to our very first episode again, just so I can listen to me not speak and Megan talk underwater.
Oh. Well, real quick, let's just talk about what we're watching now.
Hit the spot.
Yeah, I was going to say, like last week we were all talking about, what our schedule is going to be coming up, and I'm on, 2 deadlines for a book and, swamped right now. And I'm like, I just don't know when I can watch this and when I can watch that. And that night I got in bed. I'm like, I was tasked with coming up with a My Choice drama, which I love doing, but to put on our list like a My Choice drama. So as I'm flipping around Viki and Netflix looking for something, I'm like, you know what? I don't even I want to know what the hype is with Hit the Spot. I'm like, I'm just going to start watching the first few minutes. And 2 a.m. rolls around and I'm halfway done with the drama. It was only 8 episodes.
Amy was like, look, I'm just really busy right now. And I'm like, okay.
I can't do all these dramas.
What about this drama? What about this drama? And she's kind of like, oh, I don't I'm like, okay, well, look, you don't have to watch Hit the Spot. Like, we'll do X and Y to kind of make it. Cause I really think we should talk about it because everyone's talking about it. And, we're just going to figure out, we're just going to have to sometimes figure out what we're going to do based on our schedule. And Amy was just like, that's fine. My schedule's bananas. And the next day she's like, so I finished Hit the Spot.
Yeah. 2 days later, we're like, okay.
I know. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And so now I'm watching Love Between Fairy and Devil, and I'm also going to be binging the first half of, what are we doing? What's it called?
The Glory.
The Glory. Thank you. I'm like, what's it called?
Yeah. So I'm doing Hit the Spot and then Glory. I'm going to start The Glory, but I'm going to finish Hit the Spot just to be in a good place before I ruin it with The Glory.
Yeah, Leah's like, let's cover The Glory. Everyone's talking about The Glory. And I'm like, okay. And I thought, like, they were both going to start it. So I started it. It's traumatizing beyond belief. And it's only a part 1. I didn't know that until literally...
I didn't know that until you told us.
The end of episode 8.
I didn't know either.
When it ends not well, it ends kind of weird.
I was thinking, don't worry, it's only 8 episodes. We can just smash it.
Yeah. Leah's like, it's only 8 episodes. Smash it out. And I was like, great. And then I did, and now I'm like depressed about it. So part 2 comes out in March, and I don't know. I'm almost like mad.
So I was driving today with my daughter, and Bronte was like, oh yeah, I just watched The Glory. And I'm like, you did? I'm like, I heard it was like really traumatic. And she's like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, oh my God, you are a fucking middle schooler, because this must just feel like real life to you.
Wait till you watch it.
Great.
Wait till you watch it. You're gonna be like, well, Hazel's younger than your daughter, but I probably,
yeah, Bronte's looking down 13, but still, I mean,
it's rough. Anyway, so look, it's just one of those dramas where everyone's terrible. Like, it's like, ugh, but I couldn't stop watching it. I mean, you're very compelled to keep going because you need to know, like, what is happening. Anyway, whatever. So I'll watch part 2 then, and we'll cover it. And then I started watching Love Between Fairy and Devil. And it was interesting because the first few episodes, I was like, I had to push through the fact that it was different. And I remember when I first started watching K-dramas, same thing. Sometimes it's like so different that you're like, like, I don't quite get it, but you have to like push through. And I did. And now I'm obsessed. Like, now I'm consumed by this story, and I think it's everything. And it's incredible. And I'm just all about it. And I cannot wait to talk about it. I did tweet about it, and it was like a bunch of responses that were like, oh my God, please cover it and on the pod, and don't worry.
We are.
I want to know if Amy's going to want to watch Meteor Garden when she finishes it.
I think I might. I mean, I did initially. Like, I did like Meteor Garden when I started it, but it was also like it was committing to, 40 episodes, and we weren't necessarily planning anything with it at the time. And so it kind of got like, thrown by the wayside.
I
know.
Dylan Wang is a baby with crazy hair.
Well, I think I watched like the first 5 episodes of it. Like,
really?
Because I had already watched Boys Over Flowers. So Lee's like, you need to go, watch Meteor Garden now.
I was obsessed with Meteor Garden.
But I definitely like him as a tortured immortal right now. So,
oh my God, he's so good.
Yeah. Well, happy 2-year anniversary, everybody. Looking forward to many, many more years. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.
I love you and your wet meat sticks.
Annyeong.
Kamsahamnida. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoona Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!